swim run really allows you to kind of really tune out from your sort of daily distractions and just be present and just move through nature in this like kind of funky, ridiculous way. And yeah, and needless to say, looking forward to that on Sunday.
Cosign to the max on that piece. Welcome to the Low Tide Boyz, a swim run podcast. I'm Chip.
And I'm Chris, and this is episode 235 of the show. In this edition, we're going to be doing Countdown to Ötillö Whistler edition episode, where we are going to just, we used to do these for when we were training for the World Championship, and we're like, hey, this is a big race. We're very stoked about it. It's our A race for the year, or co-A race if you consider Casco always kind of being an A race. And we thought we'd go through kind of how we're thinking about the race, events we have planned, how our training's going, gear considerations for the big day, and all that stuff. So, you know, in the tradition of us airing our anxiety for our listeners.
Actually, this was, we brought this back from a listener request for our AMA episode. We had somebody that was like, oh, what happened to this certain segment? And we used to do this segment only during this episode. Yeah, maybe we won't bring this back for every race we do, but since this is our A race, I think we want to give you all a look in on sort of what we think about and talk about when the mics aren't on as well.
Yeah, which might come as no surprise. What we talk about off the mics and on the mics is pretty similar.
It's also, yes, swim run centric for sure.
Very swim run centric. In fact, I had two conversations yesterday, but one trying to evangelize someone to try swim run, and another one with our buddy Phil about like what shoes I was going to wear.
Yeah.
So
I always love when someone pops in the group chat or on the DMs is like, what shoes, what wetsuit? It's like, oh yes. favorite topics
for sure. Yeah, and a lot of questions lately about drilling holes in your shoes, which
I saw that. Yeah,
we'll share the advice here. You know, it's kind of random, but hey, if you're thinking about drilling holes in your shoes, maybe save that as the last resort. Try the bucket test, try to use another shoe, because drilling holes, yes, that could help drain water, but it also creates a vehicle by which debris or detritus can go inside the shoe. So, you know, if you're gonna drill holes, just exhaust all options first.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been like running around during a swim run and like, oh, I wish I had holes in the bottom of my shoes.
Right.
So I don't know. It might work for you, but anyway.
Again, last resort. But anyway, getting past that little tangent, we have a bunch of stuff happening for Whistler. Yes. We're super stoked about this race. You know, at the time of airing, we're going to be basically 3 days away from the race, and we have a bunch of events planned. So why don't we go over that before we get into more of our usual countdown show?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're starting the events on Saturday. So the day before the race, where packet pickup is. We're hoping most people should be in town by that time. You might see us cruising around the village or near one of the lakes as well. But starting at 9 a.m. sharp, we have Fika with Form. So our good friends over at Form Swim, we're doing a really cool event with us. They're getting everyone Fika, some pastries and coffee. They're coming up with some demo pairs of their new Smart Swim 2 goggle for both demo capabilities and for purchase. There also is an exclusive discount code on the 2 version, so I don't think that's been available yet as of now. So come through if you're thinking about grabbing a pair to get a discount there. But
yeah, try before you buy.
Try before you buy. Should run about an hour. So come by. You can come by and just hang out and enjoy the swim run community. Grab a free pastry, get some coffee, check out the goggles. You can do a shakeout swim run if you want. You can just swim in the lake, since it is one of the lakes that we'll be racing in on Sunday. So that's 9 a.m. Fika. Fika with Form.
Yep.
And that RSVP their Facebook link, and we'll put all these links to where this stuff is happening on our Instagram account. So be sure to check out that. So
yeah, we'll post a bunch of stories about that stuff so you can see what's going on. If that wasn't enough, at around 4:15, after packet pickup is officially over, we're going to be recording a live podcast with Stefan Bjorklund, race director for Ötillö, and Lars Finanger, race director for Ötillö USA. So that'll be a pretty fun event. This will be, I think, the 3rd or 4th time we've done a live podcast, which those are super fun. So if you want to stick around after packet pickup, you can kind of watch us do our thing. And then finally, we should note that before packet pickup, I believe it's at 11
or 11:30.
There's and you can check Marcus Barton or Envol SwimRun's Instagram for information on this. There's a swim run clinic happening that Team Envol is putting on. Great place to get your gear dialed in, ask questions from super experienced swim runners, and just kind of like get a feel for everything before the big day. If this is your first swim run, we would definitely recommend showing up to something like that. If it's not your first swim run and you just want to kind of get a vibe check on how everything's going, do a quick gear check, we also recommend that.
Yeah, definitely. We go to those usually, and this one starts at the start finish line, and then I think I saw there you're going to run up to the first lake that you swim at, so you get a little bit of a preview about the first part of the course, and obviously lots of swim runners, lots of experience there. So if it's your first time trying to figure your gear out, strategy, any last minute stuff, there's no better time to do that. So you got the fika with form. You can come out, do a swim, go get breakfast or whatever. Then you still have time to go check out all that. So we try to stagger it so you can attend all the things if you are like that.
Yeah, and we're big believers of Hobbit eating style. So get your first breakfast with us, get your second breakfast, and then, get some lunch, some noonsies, some supper, some dinner. All perfect before the race.
Absolutely. So after the live podcast, you got your bib, head back to your bungalow, your villa, wherever you're staying at, maybe a tree house, and then race morning. So really, obviously stoked on that. But after you leave it all out there in Canada, up at Whistler, we're having our post-race celebration, happy hour, meetup, as is tradition on at least somewhat of an annual basis for us here. So that is taking place at, what is it, 5?
Yeah, from 5 to 7 at the Longhorn Saloon. So this is it was going to be a Black's Pub, but they upgraded us to the Longhorn Saloon. Indoor outdoor space, family friendly, kids are welcome. They have food, they'll have drinks, they'll have everything there. So come out. We might even have some prize giveaways. So, if that wasn't enough, yeah, and that'll be the end of the official Low Tide Boyz activities
and then we're all, we'll probably be taking a pretty good sleep after that. But all these events are free. They're all family friendly. Our families will be there. We're bringing both of the families up there. So, we want everyone to feel welcome. Obviously, you could be your first time doing a swim run. You can have done, 57 or whatever that Marcus has done. Everybody's welcome there. So come out and hope to see you out at one or potentially all of those events. But
yeah, for sure.
If you do see us around, be sure to say hi. We always love hearing from everybody. And
we'll have stickers on us. We have some limited edition Whistler specific stickers, and we have some buffs left over from Ötillö last year. So if you see us, just we'll sling some gear at you.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good transition to sort of a usual segment, which, old time segment is sort of how's the body, how's the mind. And I would say, for myself,
go first, Chris.
Body's feeling good. It's great. Looking forward to race. No problems there. I think the mind is where I'm very excited for this. As Chipper alluded to, we're bringing our families. This is really the first official Low Tide Boyz joint family vacation.
Yeah.
Like this, we've gone up to Tahoe for weekends and we've done a lot of stuff together as sort of with our joint families. But this is the first time we're all getting on the plane. Our daughters are really excited about sitting next to each other on the flight and stuff. So it's, we mentioned it before, but I feel like that's getting me more stoked just seeing how excited they are for the trip. And I think, we've talked about it, our jobs have been really stressful as of late. And, we're really seeing this trip as sort of an antidote to that, and just try to have a whole bunch of fun, not stress out about the race, not stress out about our training, the haze in the barn, and just really kind of show up with, just a really healthy and just mindset, just open to the possibilities, and, just go and have, similar to world champs, probably easier to do it in this context, but, we've done the training and it's really about, kind of showing up just to have as much fun as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really looking forward to, it's also going to be hot as hell where we live right now, into the hundreds this week. So we're happy to get up to Canada where it'll be a little bit nicer. And obviously all the nature up there is very enticing. I can't wait to be awestruck, I believe.
Yeah. So how's your body and mind?
Body's feeling good. After, I think Bellingham was a really helpful, not rust buster, but first race experience. For me, that was my first race of the season. Really good to see that the fitness was there. And, I've been, working with Liz on the new coach this year, and that's really been going well. and sort of the sharpening sessions and a little bit of build after Bellingham, and then kind of some of the sharpening in the last week or so, like just been feeling really good. Like, okay, the legs come around really, really well. The swimming is feeling good. On Sunday, we went to our new normal swim run spot. Chris had been kind of like designing a course. So that was really cool to get out there and do that.
It's the first time that you've done the circuit.
So that was good. Everything's like feeling nice. No niggles or anything like that. And
good.
On the mind piece, echo what Chris has been saying. I think this year was a big, sort of step up for both of us from our career and job standpoint. And with that, I think it comes a little bit more pressure and stress, and really looking forward to disconnecting and focusing on being with our families and racing and just kind of enjoying a break and recharging. So really looking forward to that and all these events as well. I think we say this every single time, but whenever we come out and we do these events, whether it be at Casco or Austin as the shakeout or whatever we're doing, and the community comes out and we get to hang out with you all, that really like fills us up for a good while, and that's such a recharging and motivational thing for us that it honestly is what kind of keeps us going on a regular basis. So
it's
really
certainly
looking forward to seeing. I mean, it's like
certainly helps.
family that you see, a few times a year, like, oh, Trista and Amy, the Adorkables, like, oh, we're good for seeing them, 3 or 4 times a year. Really excited to see them. They've never met our kids, or I'm kind of worried for our wives how much questions they're gonna get about.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I've tried to prepare my wife Susan a little bit, just because they've come out to Folsom and stuff like that, and this is just kind of like on another level, So she's already said that she's not going to hold back on the teasing, which it's fair. It's fair.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's fair.
So body and mind are doing well. Trying like you said, like, got packed up a few days early, double checking everything. Just how do we kind of like bring the stress of what is a family vacation, which if you have kids, it's not a vacation, it's a trip. And so how do you kind of bring that down? But I think we're in a good place for it, and really looking forward to seeing everybody up there and just enjoying Whistler.
Yeah, and I think one thought I had before we get into sort of what our training looked like and how we actually prepared for this race is sort of like one of the great things about, there's obviously a lot of great things about swim run, and you've heard us talk wax philosophical about all this stuff, but I think specifically because our work lives have been super safe to say, just like on a new level of stress, at least in the last few months. One of the great things about swim run is like, to really experience it well, you kind of have to just surrender to what you're doing. You can't really be thinking about a lot of other stuff. So while we're racing, we're going to be with each other. We're not going to be thinking about work.
Yeah.
We're going to be thinking about our transitions. We're going to be thinking about our pace. We're going to be thinking about funny jokes to tell each other. And that in many ways is just like, yet another thing that's, similar to like crewing or some of these sports that just require like total focus, heads up racing in order to do it well. I think swim run really allows you to kind of really tune out from your sort of daily distractions and just be present and just move through nature in this like kind of funky, ridiculous way. And and needless to say, looking forward to that on Sunday.
Cosign to the max on that piece.
So I think with that, Chipper, we've had different coaching situations this year, but I think our build overall has been pretty similar. I think we've talked about our training before on the show, where our philosophy around it is just essentially you're swimming all the time because your body can absorb that training. So doing a good amount of swimming, 10,000, 12, 15,000 yards per week on average. Doing strength and mobility also kind of like on its own timeline, just trying to get as much in as you can.
Yep.
And then have the run kind of be specific to whatever race that you're doing. And then our swim run practices similarly sort of be somewhat specific to what we're going to see on the course. I know in my training, I've tried to really stick to that. I feel like my swim's in a good place. I also feel like my run's in a good place for the demands of this particular course, which some flat stuff, but also some really punchy, steep hill stuff. So it'll be a good mix. But I'm curious for you, Chipper. What have you done in training that you think is got you pretty prepared for this race?
Yeah. So I think one, again, echoing all the points about the swimming and what that looks like for me or for us, that's swimming kind of 3 or 4 days a week if possible. And yeah, that 10, 12K mark for non-Ötillö World Championship racing gives me that good kind of feel on the water. I find that swimming, and I'm not the only one to say this, but it's definitely like a feel. Like you kind of have to have some frequency there to feel really good. You got a good pull on the water. You kind of like feel your stroke sort of. So keeping that frequency and that consistency, I have found that just pays dividends. And if you do miss, I think earlier in March, I was on the East Coast for some work and I didn't get a swim for like a week. And it's like, it takes like a week to kind of get that feel back, but been able to stay really consistent for the last, 3 or 4 months. So really enjoying that on the swims. One thing kind of been working a little bit differently this year than in previous swims is doing a lot of like higher intensity swimming, kind of more almost like hit style swimming, where it's a lot of like fast 50s or fast 25s. And then you tack on like an endurance, 3x200s with the gear on. So I think I have found in Bellingham and in our practices, that's given me the top end gears there, and I can go put in a 25 or a 50-meter surge if we need to catch somebody or try to break away from during the race there. And then also kind of really gets your heart in a good place where it can start to handle these like spikes and then drops there. And similar on the run, more kind of speed type sessions, whether that's a hill repeat or that's like a tempo plus kind of session. So just having more access to the gears is the best way that I would say I feel like I have this season. And then, I guess because we've been so consumed by Ötillö training in the last 2 seasons, it's kind of I'm sort of having to like reset where the volume should be at, because I'm like, oh man, I'm not running like 5 days a week or whatever. It's like, we're racing like a 5-hour race, not a 10 or 11-hour race.
Isn't it glorious?
Yeah, it's very nice.
Definitely FOMO for missing world champs, not feeling FOMO for training for world champs. At least not yet.
And similar to Chris, I mean, the most diligent I've ever been and consistent with both mobility, that's like yoga, stretching, flexibility stuff, and strength this year since, pretty much December, January. And now we're 7 months in, and I can tell I do feel faster, stronger, that I have more endurance there. And I used to get a little bit of like, I got a hip hiccup or something kind of like is bugging me a little bit. That stuff for the most part is like all been taken care of by really staying diligent on it. So I was really excited to start seeing like the fruits of that labor pay off way earlier than just right before the race.
You know what I think is great about that? It's, I'm 10 years older than you, Chipper. And, I wish 10 years ago I would have been much more diligent about mobility and stuff. It's really only been in the last like 3 or 4 years where I've really kind of stepped it up.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy that you're doing it, because again, I wish I would have done it earlier, because I think I would have just been a better athlete overall. And I think it bears mentioning here, this is another thing we mention a lot, is, swim runs are challenging. The courses are really difficult. There's a lot that's thrown at you, currents, temperature changes, all sorts of stuff. And as many of the variables that you can sort of take care of, the less of an ordeal it is, and the more likely that you'll enter the swim run flow state and just have like an awesome experience out there. The biggest one is really swimming. So I don't know about you, Chipper, but since sort of our builds for the world champs, there hasn't been a race that's come up where I've had any trepidation about the 100%. Swim lengths, distances, currents, or anything. And that just really, obviously,
just a huge confidence.
Like pre-race jitters are normal for me anyway. Yeah. But it's not about, are we going to successfully be able to make these swims, right?
Yeah.
So I think like, if swimming is usually what causes people the most stress. So the way you deal with that is just by swimming a lot, swimming consistently. For Whistler, the longest swim is about a mile. So in training, we're able, we can comfortably swim, 1,600 yards, 1,800 yards. And that's, and having the confidence to do that allows us to do the shorter swims and stuff like that. And even though Whistler has a decent amount of swimming, since they updated the course, it's okay.
Yeah,
it's not all at once, and you get some run breaks in between.
Yeah,
and and once you're in the groove, I think what we've found is swim run swimming, when done right, isn't this sort of like high effort zone 4 type thing. It's like your stroke rate is a little bit slower because of the paddles. You're optimally aligned with your pull buoy. It ends up being sort of
Very smooth.
like a zone 2 type effort where you're just chugging along through the water. And obviously you can do that faster or slower depending on your technique and, endurance and whatnot. But essentially it becomes like a very much a recovery effort for most of the race.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a huge change. I remember when we did our first Casco in 2018 and
Oh my
even
God.
even Catalina in 2020 when we did it. But I remember that Casco, we were like maybe 2/3 of the way through the race and some of these swims, and I would look at my paddle, I'd be like, oh fuck, we have like an 800. And we would look out there, I'd be like, oh my God. And we'd look at each other, we'd be like, hey, who wants to lead this one? And we're like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm blasted. Oh, I'm blasted. Okay. We'll just trade off then. So we've
Yeah.
like come such a long way. And I mean, I approach our swimming as like a strength. Like I feel that's where we're able to, not that we're racing anybody, but if we're trying to get past a team or whatever, just, having fun out there racing, like that's now a strength for us when it used to be something that was certainly a little bit of a limiter, I guess.
Yeah, so I think to put a little bow on sort of our training, I think we feel good about it. I think we've trained specifically for the course. I think conditions are going to be good. But let's talk about sort of gear considerations because the weather is going to be kind of interesting. It
Yeah.
looks like on Sunday race day, air temps are going to get up into the 70s, but we start super early. Like the race starts at 6 a.m.
Mhm.
So
I think it's like in the low 50s.
It's not going to be super
for the
hot.
air temp. Yeah.
The water temps might be extra chilly. We'll
We'll find
give
out.
everyone an update on that in a few days. But yeah, I think given that, I'm bringing the entire panel of arc suits. I'm bringing
It's a
the
complete
Vig.
lineup.
I'm not bringing the
Oh.
Corp, but I'm bringing the Vig, the Uta, and my Orno X, which is that to me that's more of a last resort. That suit certainly
To
has the
me-
battle scars from two Ötillös,
Yes. Same.
which is okay. But yeah, I'm bringing those suits, and I'm just going to make a call on sort of once I check the conditions and stuff like that, because I don't want to overheat, but also hyperthermia will take you out of the race faster than overheating. Planning on starting the race with arm sleeves on, no matter what, and then sort of iterate from there during the race.
Yeah. I mean, Chris is probably, besides my wife, has the closest look to, pre-race neuroses that I have. And so I'm like, I literally stand there. I'm like, okay, shoes, socks, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like reading my wife. My wife's like, you need 3 wetsuits for one race? I'm like, I need options. I need options here. So yes, I actually have the same thing. I wasn't going to bring my Orno X, but I thought, might as well. It is pretty banged up from 2 Ötillös. So I think something would have to really drastically change with the weather forecast. And by that, I would say I would probably need the air temp to probably be sub 60 degrees on race day for me to like seriously consider that. I am bringing the thermal kangaroo as well. I'm also bringing the Arc Halo. It's like, hey, if you got it, bring it. It's like less than a sock rolled up in your bag there. And so I'm leaning probably towards the Uto.
Yeah.
And I have arm sleeves as well. I kind of enjoyed Bellingham without the arm sleeves. It's kind of one less thing. And I feel like I've learned about myself that I just sweat a lot and I get hot pretty quick on the runs because I'm a little bit bigger than Chris, and that's just how my body works. So I'll see during these swims, but my ideal state would be the Uto, no arm sleeves.
Are you bringing
with
the sleeved Uto or the sleeveless?
At first I had the Uto Air, but then I got really concerned about the chafing situation with the bib. So I'm bringing the regular Uto, which is the V1. I haven't been able to purchase the new one with the internal pockets, but I'll be okay.
Yeah.
How about shoes?
How about shoes? Yeah.
So we, for the show, if you're watching on YouTube, you see the air quotes. For the show, we had to get the newest Adidas hotness. So Chris, as you might remember, are like best swim run shoes of 2024. Chris got I don't know, what's the official name
Of the new ones?
Yeah, with the carbon plate.
Agravic Terex Speed Ultras.
Okay.
Speed Trail Ultras. Those are the ones with the carbon plate. And then the ones without are the Agravic Terex Speed Trails.
Okay. So Chris has the carbon ones. I have the non-carbon ones. Tried them out for a couple runs for a swim run, and I really like them. I'm going to go with them. I'm also bringing my oldest pair of 240s to sacrifice to the swim run gods before leaving Canada. So I will have one less pair of shoes there. So I'm going to do that. The one thing I will say, comparing the 240s to the new version of them, a lot better bounce and cushion under there, which is something that I like with my shoes. They drain. I don't even think there's possibility to retain any water on these things. There's like barely any fabric on them.
Yeah.
And
we swim run in them.
We did do a swim run in them. I think they have these interesting laces that kind of almost have like teeth on them. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, but I don't know. I'm not totally convinced for swim run that they work. I think they loosened up a little bit, but so I might swap my regular laces with them. They're Frank Paddle Blue Steels, bringing those Arc Heel Plus.
Yeah, same. Arc Heel Plus, Frank Paddles. And yeah, I spent, like I mentioned, was talking with Phil, swim run Phil, about this just last night. I am going to wear the OG Speed Trail Ultras just because I know that shoe's going to work. I think that the carbon ones will be fine as well, but I haven't really tested them enough. They have a higher stack height just by the nature of having a carbon plate in them. And I haven't really ran in them. I probably put maybe like 50 miles in them, including the swim run, but I haven't really done anything super technical with them. So I'm just going to go with what I know is going to work, what I know is going to be
Are you bringing
great.
them?
I'm not bringing them.
Okay, so you're not even.
Yeah, I'm not playing that game.
Yeah.
Know thyself. If I bring them, I'm going to be perseverating about it. I'm going to be asking Chipper, and then Chipper's not going to be super helpful in his advice.
Like,
he's going to say anything is fine. Like, just tell me what to do, dude. Just tell me what to do. So yes, trying to, know thyself on that one.
Yeah, I think that's good. One other thing I will say, speaking of knowing thyself, taking learnings from the past few swim runs, including Bellingham and even our training. And I think, again, going back to the coach aspect, one thing I really like about Liz, she's really into the data. And like on my long runs, I usually will do, 2 to 2.5 hours on the trails. And she'll be like, oh, looks like you're getting dehydrated at the end. I'm like, oh, how did you know that? Because I was. And she's like, oh, your heart rate's like creeping. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So now I kind of look at my workouts to see, and I've been trying to manage that better. I'm bringing a soft flask, much like Chris has done in years past. And I think every aid station, I'm just going to fill that thing up and run around with it. Worst case scenario, I have to chug extra water, which I'm going to be dehydrated anyway, so I might as well stay on it. So
yeah, I'm being a little bit more tactical with my soft flask. I'm basically going to do a world championship move where I'm going to have the soft flask empty but filled with pH 1500 for that big long run. So after the longest swim, which I think is like 1800 yards or something, then you have sort of the biggest run that goes up and over like a ski slope and stuff, and super technical. And then that leads into sort of the last swim of the day. So for that section, I'm just going to have handhelds because it's going to be pretty hikey anyway. Yeah. So just great opportunity to just make sure you're topped off for that last little bit of effort.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that I don't think that will hurt me by having this extra, flask there.
Yeah. It'll just like hurt your ribs.
Yeah. That's fine. I'll suck it up. And then PFH 90s for me, some caffeines and the salt tabs, kind of my usual thing there. And I am bringing some spring energy potentially to mix in just for like a additional texture variant in there. But yeah, a couple of the PFH 90.
Yeah, I think on that front, on the nutrition front, I'm excited to, I've been spending literally the last 6 months dialing in a caffeine intake strategy.
Yeah, I've really been working on it.
And I feel pretty good about it. So I'm actually pretty excited to kind of bust it out in the race. I mean, my numbers are really low. It's like 20,
this isn't
30.
a caffeine swinging contest.
No.
But I hit the hundreds, but I'm a regular coffee enthusiast, I'll say.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't partake. I've definitely seen it work in training so far. So I'm excited to on the quote, like biggest stage for us at our A race to really see if that strategy works for me, which essentially the way it looks like I am going to take 20 milligrams of caffeine 15 minutes before the race. Basically the strategy, which always bears repeating. The night before, top up on your hydration with 1500. It's like strong electrolyte drink. the morning, do your breakfast early enough so you can, have your bowel movement, whatever you need to do.
Poop.
Yeah, aka poop. Have a bottle of 1500 or again a high electrolyte solution drink just to sip on in the morning before the race. 15 minutes before the race, take a gel. Typically, I would have just taken a normal gel. This time, I'm taking 20 milligrams of caffeine with the gel.
Okay.
And then during the race, try to get a gel in every 20 to 25 minutes. Not pass
Yep.
an aid station without taking some gel, some water, just kind of like a non-negotiable. Even if you just had a gel, if they have
Do
gels
it.
at the table, just take a half a half a gel. It doesn't matter. And then drink water during the race. Have the flask ready to go for the long run. And then I mean, because we usually get gelled out at 8 or 9 hours.
I think we'll be good
we'll
for
be
this.
okay.
Yeah. And I mean, that is the strategy that I employ as well. I will probably do a PFH caffeine gel to start 15 before that as 100. So that'll really juice me up. Having said all that, I don't try to have 3 cups of coffee in the morning like maybe I do during a regular day. I'll just have one and then kind of my thing. So I've been, I've been practicing that for if I have a 2.5 hour long run, I try to have my sort of race day prep in terms of okay, I have a little bit of this and the coffee and kind of figure it all out just to get the reps in there. But yeah, very similar. I do the little salt tabs that PFH has. So I try to get one of those every 20 minutes. And then the 90 gels, I just take a big squeeze. And then basically there's 90 in there. Each gel is supposed to be 30. So basically 3 20-minute intervals is an hour. So I just try to crush one of those every hour. And then like Chris said, we've experienced in our racing that I think our best races in terms of energy levels, and speaking for myself, is when we've just taken 30 more seconds at the aid station, get that extra gel, get that extra water, and not try to blast through everything. I think that's where I feel like I'm able to be the most successful from a race fueling standpoint. But there's always a little tension there because Chris is a quick drive by aid station guy, so it's usually me. But he's like, oh man, Chipper's going for the Cinna, the Cinnabuns now. We gotta pull him away. So, but yeah, and in terms of actual race strategy and not fueling, we always say, keep it in your pants to start.
Yeah. I think this race, the way the course is laid out, there's a decent amount of running, especially at the beginning. So there's a good amount of running. Then you have your first swim, which will be about 800 yards. And then you have another good amount of running, some of it on pavement, until you get into what's really kind of like a swim run, kind of like there's a lot of swim run business. It actually reminds me a lot of
NC.
of swim run NC, where it's like you do some running, a little bit of swim run, and then it's like, okay, now there's the lion's share of swimming and running is happening. So there's some pretty long swims, a couple long swims back to back. Like there's 1,000, and then a super short run, and then the longest swim of the day, which is about a mile swim. Then you get into sort of the technical, super steep, kind of like shit kicker, knee scraper, whatever term of endearment you want to use for that. So that section will be really technical, and that's a pretty long run. So making sure that you, at least for our race strategy, as Chipper mentioned, kind of keep it in our pants, let the race come to us, which is our usual approach. I try to resist the urge to tamp down the pre-race, just want to get a shot out of a cannon.
Yeah.
And I'll try to tamp down Chipper's shot out of a cannon on the first swim.
I've been doing that. I've been feeling like I've been doing this lately, and because I think I lead the swims, I'm just really charged up, and I've been charging out of the runs, I think much to my own detriment. I'm like, listen here, you're not like the thoroughbred racehorse guy, so maybe I'll try to keep in my pants coming out of some of those swims a little bit too. But
yeah, and I think our strategy, a race like this, I think really suits my training and sort of like my usual strength, which is just a lot of hills and stuff. So I think for this one, take advantage of the flats to run at a good pace, and then use the climbing as active recovery, and not really try to, we're not going to win the race, 10 miles in, which is about halfway when you get into the real steep, kind of running up the ski slope type stuff.
I'd rather have the good legs. There's a back half run section of this race. I think if we execute our strategy well and we're having a good day, for us, that would be having a strong finish to the race on, what it's a couple
Yeah.
miles run back
Yeah. Yeah, the last
there.
run's about a 5K. Plus, there's a nice hill that you gotta get up and over.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be once you're done with the real steep long run. Then you have a really cold swim. So that'll be about an 800 in Green Lake, which everyone's saying that's going to be the coldest lake. It's also the last one of the day. So
Yeah.
it's like, who cares what it
It will
is?
be the
It'll get
warmest
done.
air temp. You'll be the most cooked up.
Yeah, yeah. You'll be most looking forward
Yes.
to a cold swim probably. But yeah, as we were saying, kind of let the race come to us, take advantage of the flats and run at a pretty good clip, and then use the swim for active recovery and just making sure that we're moving well and kind of really saving our energy levels for the back half, where again, it'll be a couple really long runs and then a super cold swim sort of sandwiched in between. And then, yeah, and that whole time, try to have a good fun time, enjoy
Yeah,
nature.
Of course. Yeah, it's
A lot
going
of
to be
it's running through
absolutely
downtown,
beautiful
so that'll be pretty fun.
there, and obviously there's multiple points to engage with our families on this, so that will be really cool to hear them cheering throughout. And then I think our tether situation has kind of evolved a little bit. We're using this kind of really thin micro tether. I don't know. I didn't get my, whatever out. It's 3 millimeters or 4 millimeters thick or something. And it's less about towing and more about keeping kind of that nonverbal communication line intact about, hey,
Yeah.
I went too crazy on the swim and Chris wasn't ready and I didn't hear him because he's yelling at me and I'm, charged up. Or on the runs, like, oh, Chris is headed up the hill and okay, it's getting a little tight. I'm dragging ass a little bit. Maybe let's hike it out for a little bit there. So I think that's kind of how we're planning on deploying it. And then it's small enough and it doesn't take up as much room now that it's been really easy to just like put it into the kangaroo top and bust it out. Like it's really easy to go in and out with it, as before the thicker one, it's like kind of an ordeal to, it's
Yeah.
big. It's like probably as big as like a soft flask would be almost.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, to that point, I think the plan is to start with the tether, at least for the first couple swims, kind of see how it's going. I mean, we've done entire races without a tether at this point, and Bellingham, we took the tether off on like sort of the second to last, the longest run of the day, and then just kind of finished the race off without the tether. So totally prepared to be able to do that if needed. It just kind of depends like who's feeling what. So if I'm feeling sluggish in the water, I'll want the tether just to make sure I stay in contact. Similarly, like if we're doing some of these climbs and it might help Chipper if we just put the tether on and I'm just, he doesn't have to think. He just has to kind of follow along. Kind of like what we did at Orcas a few years back.
Yes, this will be a better situation.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think that's sort of our race strategy. Again, we don't have any delusions of anything. I think we just want to go and be able to express our fitness while trying to have as much fun as possible. And again, as we mentioned earlier, like my goal for this race is to really be an antidote to sort of the daily life stress and really take into account that it's like, hey, this is something that we get to do, which isn't it a wonderful thing that to be able to do this with one of your best friends.
100%.
And again, have our families there and have a super good time. And it'll be great. A lot of maple products. A lot of poutine.
Yeah.
Will be eaten. But yeah, I think like from there going into sort of closing thoughts, I'm super excited for this race. Obviously, I think going with our families will be a different experience and a really memorable one. I'm looking forward to, just sort of all the core memories that'll be formed and the fun we'll have. But yeah, just kind of excited to do an Ötillö race in our time zone too.
Yeah. It's first one in 4 years for us. So really looking forward to it. And yeah, I mean, I'll definitely echo all those pieces. I think, obviously a lot of excitement. I feel the nerves probably will kick up for sure once we're there. But then, after that first run or that first transition, it's like, oh yeah, we know how to do this. And oh yeah, this is a ton of fun. Like, let's just have a good, 4, 5, 6 hours out there and, have
hopefully
not 6. 4 to 5 sounds good, but we'll see.
For sure. Yeah. So if you're out there, hit us up. We'll be around. So send us a DM. If you have any questions about anything, last minute gear issues, feel free to reach out. We'll try to help you out. If for some reason you forgot a wetsuit and you happen to be a small tall, we might be able to hook you up. Might be able to hook you up on race day. So, but yeah, thank you for everyone's support and encouragement. We keep getting the DMs. Everyone's super stoked for us, and we're stoked for you too. So thank you so much for listening or watching the show on YouTube. And of course, leave us a review, comment, like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and share it with a friend.
Of course. Absolutely. And we will see you out there.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a rating or review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swim run.
Check out our website, lowtideboyz.com. That's boys with a Z, for swimrun resources, including gear guides, tips, how-to videos, and so much more. Make sure to check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boyz on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, send us a DM or email us at lowtideboyz@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swim run and other activities.
Lots of activities.
Lots of activities.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Then a run.
And then a swim.
Then another run.
Then another swim.
Then run some more.
Just keep going.
Let's go.
And then stop at some point because,
And fuel. Don't forget to fuel.
Gotta fuel
Of
too.
course, yes.